let us continue to pray for those people who are leaving their country because of war. They are searching for a refuge, that they will be welcome. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and in the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, such a wisdom,
pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So the chapter 13, on the human as a living being. I wrote on the board here, the human life. Huh? In fact, the subject of that chapter is what is life and what is the human life. Because many kind of life, the cat has life, the flower, the tree, but man has the characteristic of life, but applied to man, what is life? What is to be a human living being? So that is the question. It is a central question. The first question, what is life? Chapter 13, we are studying. And next class, we will study the origin of life. What is the origin of life? And those three chapters are very important for the class of bioethics. Because bioethics, a large part, at the point of view of philosophy, is based on what we study now. What is life? What is the origin of life? Okay. Well, here you will have some notion of biology. I'm not a biologist. I use the discovery of a biologist, but we cannot separate the study of life, human life, or any kind of life, animal life, without having a certain idea of the biology. Biology, bios, in Greek, life, the study of life. Okay? So what are the characteristics of life? First characteristic, how you can know that your cat is dead or not dead when it moves. Remember, I spoke about my cat in Cameroon, who ate a rat and he died, apparently. And so I said, no time to bury it. Yeah, it was in the morning. I saw my poor cat, he was like a piece of steel. So, and when I came back after my class at noon, he was running to me, resurrected. So what is the proof? He was living, he was in motion, moving. The characteristic of life is motion. But not any kind of motion. When you play soccer, the ball is in motion. But the motion comes from outside, not from within. Imagine the ball suddenly move by itself. You see, there is a sorcerer here, a witch. No, the ball cannot move by itself. But an animal, that the first characteristic is to move by itself. From the motion comes from within. We call that spontaneity or spontaneous motion. Self-motion. Spontaneous, spontaneously. Your cat is very quiet, suddenly it jumps because he smelled and he saw a mouse, you know. So that is motion from within, characteristic, okay? In fact, the source of motion is in the living itself. And the source of motion is in the living itself. Okay, next page. So, that is it is the most apparent characteristic of motion. Even the tree is in motion. I saw here 15 years ago, they planted a little tree, and now we have big, beautiful oaks along our house in St. Jude on the other side, or in front of St. Philip. They grow. That is motion. And nobody comes every morning to say, grow, grow, grow. No. They grow by themselves. Okay? Well, other characteristic of life, growth. Growth. Like a tree, like a boy, like a child. Repair. So how we grow? We grow through nutrition and assimilation. So it's a characteristic of life, nutrition and assimilation. I feed myself. I find my my food myself. A tree finds its food in the soil. Nobody came every day and say, okay, open your mouth and give no. So it's a character of life, it is nutrition, phenomenon of we eat, and what we eat, a part of that become myself. So I can say here, maybe it is a part of a cow, a part of a rabbit, I don't know, or a cat. Assimilation, that's a characteristic of living. Living assimilates. When you put water in the glass does not assimilate water. But when you put the glass in your mouth, not the glass, but the water in your mouth, it becomes a part of you. Something stay in you. Okay? Repair, another repair, or if you want, organization. It's a characteristic organization. In fact, there is a scientist in France, Claude Bernard. We have that in the supplement I gave you at the end of the chapter. He finds 4 characteristics of life, and nutrition, assimilation, and organization. Organization in such a way that you develop yourself, your own organ. From the first cell, and that is a marvel, think about that. From the first cell, and we arrive to a man. A first cell divided in 4, etc. It divide and divide and divide and grow and organize. What is organ? An organ in Greek is a tool. So you create your own tool, your fingers, and you. It's a marvel. From one cell to arrive to what we have today. Organization. That is the. You take a little seed, you put that in the soil, and after a few months you see a beautiful rose, a beautiful lily, a beautiful flower. That is a characteristic of life. And that organization comes from within, you know. Important, which is the consequence of that after. So in the first cell there is already, when the first cell divides in 4, there is organization, beginning organization. Okay? Reproduction, a characteristic of life. We are not made by our partner, by a company, a manufacturer. They make baby. No. Flower, tree, every organic living is reproduced by those who came before. We call that reproduction, sexuality, or self-replication. And what is interesting, a cat engender a cat. Even if he eats a lot of mice, he did not engender a mice, he engendered a cat. That is also something interesting. Okay, so growth, let us reflect about someone. Growth, self-movement in process. So the process of growth is orchestrated, organized, conducted. There must be a conductor, only from within, completely from within. No external, of course we need the sun, we need air, many things, water, but they are not doing that. They are used to, for example, when you eat, it's not it's not the meat you eat that replace the wound you have on your arm. It is everything from within. That is characteristic of spontaneity. Okay, that is different from crystallization. You know, if I have some product and some stone, or those stones are only a kind of crystallization because of volcano. It was in fire maybe 1 million years ago, and now we are crystal. No, that is not life. Huh? Life is not crystallization. So it is self, in fact, all that is self-motion. Huh? Self-motion. The motion comes from within. Huh? Auto-motion. Huh? Auto. But be careful, automobile is, we are not automobile. The automobile, my car is not self-motion. They say, yeah, Father, yes, but the pieces, all that was not coming from within, come from Japan, or come from America. The pieces are put together, finally I have an automobile. But strictly speaking, automobile is depending on many things. But here, depend on myself. I grow. Huh? I grow, I repair also. Hmm? So what is interesting in that? If there is a growth, if I grow, there must be a finality. If there is organization, huh? That means order. Huh? That means there must be finality. You know, the big problem in bioethics is many scientists do not recognize finality. They say all that is the fruit of chance. Of course, we cannot find finality as a scientist. I cannot. But I have to go farther than science, farther than nature. I go to meta-nature. In Greek, nature is physics. Meta-physics. So when I discover the finality, I don't discover that only as a scientist. But some scientists, like Claude Bernard, like Hans Rich. Hans Rich is important because he was the teacher of Jacques Maritain. You know, Jacques Maritain was a great dichotomist, but before that he was a Protestant, liberal, and with his wife they make a pact of suicide. And finally he met Léon Blois in France, a good Catholic journalist, and he put Maritain into contact with St. Thomas. And he discovered St. Thomas, for him it was a revelation. Huh? So he decided with his wife to spend 1 year in Germany to study biology. Interesting. Biology, before bioethics, to study 1 year. And the two teachers, the two scientists, Claude Bernard and Hans Rich, both of them, say that all that organization, nutrition, assimilation, etc., has a finality. There is a principle of within. And that principle, they call that enteliki. Well, en in Greek means in. Telos in Greek means end. End, finish, end. And eki means to have. Ekein in Greek, to have. So it's to have inside an end, a finality. And that is not, they are not philosophers. They are scientists. And they said if there is finality, it is what constantly now in the pages we study we'll find, a finality, organization. And that's excessively important for the future of this class, chapter 14, 15, but also for bioethics. And when you study evolution, okay? So the capacity of repairing is it is a vital act. It's not repair from outside, it is repair from within. It's a marvel. You cut your arm here, your skin, and after a few days the skin is becoming normal. You know? So that is a phenomenon of a vital phenomenon. In fact, vital means life. Huh? Vita in Latin, huh? Vita. Vita means life. Vitamin, to sustain life. So, life. Okay. It's a phenomenon characteristic of life, repairation. If your car has an accident, it will not repair by itself. But if you cut something or if you have some problem, of course sometimes we need a doctor, but the doctor does only from outside. The healing comes from within, from within. Okay? Restorative act is a vital act, and that expresses a finality. In fact, as soon as there is organization, there is orientation, because you know when you eat, it is to lead you toward the growth of your body, toward the repairing of the weakness of your body, etc. So everything in our body, in our life, has an orientation, a finality. Okay? Reproduction, we spoke about that. Mr. Claude Bernard speak about organization, nutrition, reproduction, and he had evolution. Oh, be careful. Evolution here, in fact, it is more the growth, the metabolism, if you want. Evolution is not evolution from a monkey, no. It is from the first cell to the mature age. You evolve, you change, you are in motion. Your metabolism is constantly changing, moving, okay? Well, that's the characteristic of it. We can apply that to any living material being. I cannot apply that to angels. Angels don't reproduce. But I can apply that to plants, to little animals, to non-sentient and sentient animals. Those who have a nervous system and those who don't have a nervous system. Okay? So next page. Well, the activity originating within the being itself are spontaneous activity. We saw that. And what are the first we study at the beginning of the year? They were the sensory activity. We know through our senses. And after that, through our intellect. And what we know from our intellect, from things, they are the form of thing, the form of the object, enter in my intellect. And what happened? The more you study, the more you learn, the more you read, the more you have experiences, the more you grow. Of course, on the scale, nothing changed. But you grow intellectually, you enrich yourself, you assimilate, okay? So we cannot grow intellectually without an object. Of course, all those activities needs an external object. For example, if you assimilate, you must assimilate an object, meat or milk or you know, we are the life, the one who is living, the living being, is also depending on its environment to survive. The air, light. So we are not, it's not a pure, it's, what we say spontaneously, the being move is not purely spontaneously. It's not pure spontaneity. The need, for example, when you stand up, when you look at, there is an object, there is a motive, there is something, you know. But the cat, we see the mouse. Of course, by himself, he stand up. But if he runs because there is an object, you know. So that means, here we have that in the square. An object is necessary to launch the activity, our sensory intellective power. We saw that, So what the object we receive, it is the formal object. So we need, in fact, we need both. We need the power of, we are organized. What is an organ? An organ is a power, the faculty. We have many powers. All those powers act, but they need an object to act. So that spontaneity is not absolute. But a characteristic, when you study, when you eat, that activity is not purely spontaneous. It is also in manner. That means the knowledge you acquire, the images you receive, are kept in stored by the imagination. We remember that, the imagination. So the fruit of my activity, a part of the fruit stays in myself, in me, and that is a characteristic of life. Because if you grow, if you have a change in you because something you assimilate, if you repair your skin, it is because you assimilate something, a remedy or a food, etc. Food. Okay? So we can distinguish many levels of life. The first level of life, it is the level of plants, trees, flowers. They don't have a sentient organization. They don't have a nervous system. Flower has no nervous system. Okay? It does not react only if mechanically, but it does not react because it learns something. For example, your cat learns something. He learns the presence of a mouse, it will react. The flower does not react. You put a beautiful flower in front of the, and people, oh, beautiful flower. It does not react. You put a little boy, a little girl, and your uncle, your aunt, oh, you're the most beautiful daughter, the beautiful baby. No, you react. You react because you know the flower does not know. The flower has no sentient system. See, it cannot know. That means it cannot receive the form of outside and assimilate that. Okay? The sensory, we know that your cat, as you said, you can see, you can smell. So we have a system, a sentient life. We have a nervous system. So we can react to the object, to the stimulus given by an object, a color, for example, to my eye. And finally, we have the intellective life, the three level. Bon. When we speak about man, we speak about the two, sentient life and intellective life, because we are also animal. So we have a nervous system, and we have the same reaction that animal, because we have the same senses. But we are more than that, so it is what we are studying. Okay? We are similar, but we are also different. Of course, if you are a member of a humane society, maybe you will not agree with me. There is no difference between a chimpanzee and a human being. I don't say that everyone says that in that society, human society. But there is a tendency for some people to say that difference between animals, non-rational, irrational, is only an accidental difference, it's not the essential difference. In fact, we are the same. The same. Okay, so number 5. So under that change, under those activities, nutrition, assimilation, organization, reproduction, all that, there is something common and something different. But we studied that when we saw the substance and the accident in logic. Remember that. What is permanent under change is my I. It is my ego. I am myself from the first cell to the last breath. So I am a subject under change. Is that subject permanent, my I, is considered as a substance. And substance, sub, need also subject. So in that substance we can mind the 9 accidents. 9 predicaments, 9 categories. You studied that in logic? Okay. Importance. Okay. So there is change, but not total change. Something is permanent. Of course, for Heraclitus, it is a total change. But there is something permanent. I keep my ID, my identity under the change. You look at your picture when you were 6 years old, and 16 years old, and 60 years old. And you see, it's the same. I am the same, but I'm not the same. I am substantially the same. My eye did not change, but my accidents changed a lot. A lot. Okay? So that is the permanence. In fact, we can go also to the theory of matter and form. So the matter receives many forms. Many forms. Okay? I go to page 4. In short, a living thing, through its varied growth activity, undergoes changes. Change is true, we change, but at the same time, it continues to be substantially the same living thing. The word substantially is a substance. Is the same thing, through his substance. But it changes through his accidents. Accident. Okay? Well, I go to 5.4. So the definition of the living thing as self-moving is a suitable one for 2 reasons. First, I can define the living thing as moving by themselves, because it is applicable to all those things we ordinarily consider to be living. So when we say a thing is living, it is a thing that is moving by itself. Okay? Secondly, and it accords as well with the more recent advances in the life science. And that is what I appreciate in the book of Father Reichman. Right? It is the fact that he uses the discovery of biology to apply, to unite that to the teaching of philosophy. When I studied philosophy, we did not speak about that. But because you study philosophy and biology, and because you are preparing for a class of bioethics, it is necessary not only to know the philosophical aspect, but to know also a little part of the scientific aspect we call biology. Okay? So here is a scientific confirmation. And Father Reichman quote here Mr. Thorpe. It is interesting to see that the scientist, here is a zoologist, what he said about life. Living organism, I quote, can be defined with much cogency, or they are convince us more, convincing argument, as self-reproduction and self-programming system. Programming system. We spoke about organization. You remember that? What is organization? It is programming. When you organize a party for your graduation, now you program. So the organization is programming. Here it does not use the word organization, it uses the word programming, which store and organize information. And now we speak about those programming systems, especially the chromosome and DNA. Okay? So I continue. The self-reproducing and self-programming. Well, if you say self-programming, immediately, what do you have underlying that? You have finality. Do you program a party only for nothing? No. You program a party for to celebrate your 18th birthday, not 80, 18. Or you can celebrate the graduation, etc. someone, their future marriage, etc. Okay? So they imply already finality. That never forget that. Huh? All the time you study, when you see programming, ordering, organizing, all those terms imply finality. Okay? Self-motion. Okay? In fact, biology now teaches us clearly that what is organized at the level of life is not at random. Even if some scientists, they say at random, it's not by chance. It is so well programmed, and we can say how it's possible that chance programmed that. You know? Okay. So next page, the unity of the living thing. That is a problem the Greek faced, and they were preoccupied by that, was how we can unite, we can conciliate the one and the many. That was they were preoccupied by that. How we can conciliate the one and the many. For example, we have many powers in man, no? Many activities, and how we can conciliate that in one eye. You know, we have to find an explanation for that. The fact is there. I have two eyes, I have ears, I have many teeth, and I am only one. I am a body, I am intelligent, I am a soul, I am a freedom, I am one. Okay? Immediately you have the answer probably. Huh? You have the answer already. Huh? Okay? There must be a principle of final organization. Huh? Enteliki. Enteliki. Okay? Never Mr. Bernard and Mr. Drich spoke about the soul. The soul is a concept in philosophy, theology. In science, they would speak now about principle of life, you know, enteliki. They avoid the word soul, but for us, enteliki would be the soul. Okay? So I go to the text here. The fact of the convergence of the activity of the living things toward the support and development of a total organism is a natural phenomenon which never ceases to elicit wonder in one contemplating it. That means when you look at the varied activity we have, the varied function, power we possess, and all that is for the unity of the one person. For my eye, I eat, I study, I play, I sleep, my eye. Okay? So there is a convergence and in the complexity. The human being or animal is very complex, a great complexity. How to explain that great complexity converge with one being, convergence. If I speak about convergence, I speak about finality. Okay? So here he said the extent complexity of the human being. One fact is the discovery of the cell. You know, we know better biology than St. Thomas. St. Thomas never studied biology, but you know that man was big. The embryo become a man after 40 days, and the women become the embryo of a female become a female woman after 80 days, men 40 days, and women 80 days. It was not very, but he explained the teaching of Aristotle, you know. They saw that from a period. He observed frog, he observed, not St. Thomas, Aristotle, and he concluded that. But there is nothing in comparison what we know now on the power of the microscope, electronic microscope. And we have the power to know that never they had before the 19th century. Okay? So the extreme a cell, it is the elementary part of my body, and every element, that's very serious, every elementary part of my body works for the good of the whole, for my health, no? Every. If I have a little problem on my skin here, I am not completely whole, perfect. So I have to heal that, you know, for the good of every cell works for the common. That is interesting. That explains there is a finite. Continue. It is very highly organized. I give you at the end of your chapter, if you go on some pictures about the complexity of a cell. A cell is very small, but the cell itself is very complex. They have guard, they watch, sentinel, protecting against invaders, etc. The cell contains factories, highly complex communication system, molecules that are centuries they got. Only the study of the cell, it's a murder. And you see that we have a lot of cells in our body. We have 100 trillion cells. 100 trillion. That means 1 multiplied by 10 to the power 14. 14 zero. A lot of cells. And all that, everyone has a finality. Everyone has an organization. Everyone has the same program. Everyone has the same DNA. Your identity is in each of your cells. And today we can find gangster, criminal, because of a little piece of air, a little drop of blood, or a little bit of saliva. We can discover who is the criminal, or we can say that man is not a criminal because his DNA does not correspond to the DNA on the victim, for example. Okay? It is interesting. Discipline, biological minutia. You know, we have an immune system. What is the immune system? It is an organization protecting our system not to be sick. And if there is an immune system, why we hire policemen or guard to protect the president, to protect the pope? Because there is a finality. We don't hire them only for the fun. No, we hire them. Of course, Father John Paul was for the fun, but for us it's not for the fun. That means in our organization we have our immune system is a proof that there is a finality. Okay, a finality. Finality in each cell. That is so powerful. How we can accept after the affirmation of some scientists? They say, "Oh, that is a random." So I spoke about Anteliki already. So the same program leading to the good of the whole being, the whole body, every. You know what astonished me? Because I am a old man, I take many medications and many pills every morning. And one is supposed to go to the heart, the other to the kidney, the other. There is finality, no? Do you use the same pill when you have a headache or when you are constipated? No? You use a pill for headache, a pill for against constipation. Yeah, that proves that when the scientists prepare a medication, there is a finality. And after that, they say, that is at random. For me, I cannot understand that. It's a nonsense. Nonsense. So order, organism, we said that before. Order, organization, programming. Order, organization, programming. All that indicate the finality. Yeah, now page 6, I will not explain that in detail, but read it. The DNA molecule. It is the master blueprint within each cell which strictly monitors and governs the activity of the cell. So you have the same pattern in every cell. We can recognize you through any cell. We can take air and analyze the air, and take the air of your brother. See, you are not the same air, because not the same DNA. Okay. So the DNA is number two. Contain a code or a program by which billion of cellular activities are channeled and directed. And that is not invention from philosopher. It is a discovery of scientists. And that discovery has a very great importance in justice, for example, today. Even in agriculture, because they try to work on the DNA of the plant to create new products. Okay? So imagine I go to 200 in the square, trillions other molecules in the human cell in one. Therefore, there are a number of zero. Okay, you see, only in my body, and we have 7 billion people on Earth. I don't speak about cats and dogs and mice and trees. I speak only about humans, and not two are the same. Not two human beings have the same DNA. Before we spoke about fingerprints, but it is more powerful than fingerprints. It is in each cell. All that is programmed. If it is programmed, it is ordered. That means some intelligence organized that. But as a philosopher, I cannot say immediately it is God. I have to, okay, as a philosopher, I can go to philosophy of God. In fact, here we have the question, who programmed that? And why it is programmed? In fact, when we study biology, we are called to study metaphysics. Because the biology is so astonishing that we cannot explain everything through science. And now the scientist must change his hat and put the hat of metaphysician and say, now let us go to nature, metaphysics. Let us try to find the efficient cause of that. Let us find the final cause of that. But that is not science, that is metaphysics. Okay? The function of DNA, you go page 7. It's interesting to see the verbs and the verb used to express the function. A, controls. B, directs. C, controls. D, oversees. E, regulates. F, monitors. G, sends signals. All that express finality. Now, finality is printed in our DNA. Is there. Okay? So the limit of our knowledge, page 8. The present state of our knowledge is spectacularly advanced. Imagine how we can know the interior of a cell, and what was the possibility for Aristotle to study biology. You have the instrument today that allow us to go very deep in the notion of what is a living being. Okay? But there are such more to know. One of the characteristics of scientists now it is a kind of humility. A kind of humility. That means positivism. Positivists in the 19th century, they pretended that the human reason can explain everything. And what we cannot explain does not exist. But now, since the huge discovery we did from 100 years, we cannot affirm that. And we discover that not only we know more, but we ignore more. The more we know, the more we realize we don't know. You know, when you were a child and you know that 5 multiplied by 6 equals 30, for you it was a great knowledge, no? But what is that in comparison what you know in mathematics now? That means the more we study the human being, the more we have questions. And those questions are about not the what is that, and we know now what is that. We know the what, but we don't know the how. The meaning, if you want. We search for the meaning. And that is the problem. All that must have a meaning because all that is programmed, no? The program must have a meaning. We know. We can describe the cell, but we have to search for an explanation, satisfying. But that explanation cannot be given by science. We must go farther than science, you know. And that is the problem. Many scientists a priori deny metaphysics. They want to reduce everything to the knowledge of what we see, what we observe. By the fact they close themselves in a kind of jail, if you want. They force themselves to stay in the cell, in the cell of the prison. But we have to go outside, to go farther. What says the author here? What we have today is description of what happened in the cell, not an understanding of how it happened. And I go just after. We presently know the vocabulary of the genetic code, the triplet standing for an amino acid, but very important, we do not know the grammar, its meaning, the meaning of the message as a whole. We know the little part, but we cannot know the meaning of the whole. And as a scientist, we cannot know, because we cannot observe that. But as a metaphysician, as a philosopher, we can go far. So in fact, we know the phenomenon, but we cannot explain the meaning, and we cannot go. Well, we, as philosophers, we pretend to be able to find an explanation. And it is the role of, for example, philosophy of God to arrive to try to prove the first causes of everything, and also the final causes of everything. That the ultimate causes, that's a metaphysic, and metaphysic, the coronation of metaphysic is philosophy of God. We arrive to, but we cannot directly. But some scientists in the past, they say, I remember very well in 1957, we have television with the brother for the first time, or illegally, and a Franciscan, Father Bergogneau, a Franciscan, Father Bergogneau, a French. Oh, it's not important for you. OFM. He was a scientist, he was a biologist, and he was asked by a speaker, he said, you are a scientist, and you are at the same time a religious, you believe in God, how is it possible? He said, you know, for me the best proof of the existence of God is biology. We cannot study biology without falling on your knees. Because it is, okay, we see the stars, the galaxies, but when you admire the system dwelling in us, the complexity of that, it's so marvelous. It's a good proof of the existence of God. But you know, don't forget, if P, then Q, no? So if I have Q, do I have P? No. So I have to reason, I have to refer to another science, metaphysics especially. Okay, page 9. So scientists are still looking for the mechanism of self-regulation. Okay, so they ignore the why. Okay, go number 5. how can we explain cell differentiation? So we have the same cell, but they are united in a different ways. Some are making my eyes, others are making my stomach, my heart, my kidneys, etc., my blood. All that is different. At the same time, everything is the same. The same cell, but not organized in the same way. All that is the fruit of finality, not the fruit of change. Impossible. The characteristic of change is disorder. Try that, huh? Can you put order in your room by throwing in the up all your shoes, or your socks, or your books? You say, okay, I put order. I take that, throw. Now, fall down. You will have a pile of socks, a pile of books. No, it will be a mess. Change produces mess. Change produces disorder. If there is order, there must be intelligence. There must be finality. Okay? So that we say here. In the quotation of genetic engineering is very interesting. But they said, at a critical moment, early in the life of the embryo, you know that the embryo, the first cell, divides in four, etc. Identical cells miraculously, no other word will do, begin to take on specialized role. Imagine from one cell, you will have heart, you will have brain, you will have kidneys, you will have arms, you will have bones. All that from one cell. How can be only through a cause for that? Huh? Each of these different cells contains all the original instructions. So the word I want to stress is miraculously. That means that scientists cannot explain that. They can describe the fact, but they cannot give the meaning. And when we are a human being, not only we know what is that, we want to know why. No? Remember the question to your father. Not only what, after that, why. And your father, stop questioning me. But he never stopped, so we have developed your curiosity. So the first cell is very important, huh? Because in the first cell you have programmation. So all the genetic characteristics are all, that's very, very important. All the general characteristics are already in the first cell. That means in the first cell you have already your ID, your identity. Those who fight for life against abortion, here you have a very strong scientific argument. Your ID is in your first cell. And that is said by the Pope, John Paul II. It is by scientists. That means the programmation of what you will be is already there. And the first cell is not the cell of your mother. It is your own cell. That means it is a old. You know what is the character of the person? We said that last week. Huh? It is to be one and to be one and all, complete. Huh? So different. The first cell is your cell, not the cell of your mother. It is all complete as a cell. So your mother also will feed you, but you are different. Your ID is different. If you have the same blood, everybody on earth will have the same blood as Adam and Eve. You know, we don't have the same blood necessarily. So that is very, very important. The first cell is already a human being. Already a human being because of that here. You know, it's important for you to know that. Why? Because sometimes when we discuss about life, the impression I have for many is much more on emotion than on reason. I am pro-life, I am pro-life. Why? What are you pro-life? And when you discuss with the other, you must give them a very solid argument. And that is a scientific argument here. probably one of the most solid scientific argument is the first cell is your cell, is not the cell of your mother. So the body of the fetus is not the body of the mother. It's not a property, it's another reality inside the womb, but it is another reality. It is another individual. It is another one and all, with all its identity. In the Bible, God says, I know you from your conception. I know you from the conception. Okay, next page, page 11. So the number of genetic information stored in the human cell are astronomical. Well, I will not insist on that because it's... But I go to number 8. Very, very important. You know, if you look at my paper here, you will see that they are yellow. Those pages, on page A11 to page 40, excessively important. Not only for the examination, 50, but for your life as a defender of pro-life life. You must know that, okay? So all components are hierarchically structured and ordered to the promotion of the organism's well-being and to the growth. If there is hierarchical structure, there must be a finality, okay? And number 8.1. Thus, all the activity within the organism fall under the control of a master program. In that master program, it is what we call DNA. Program. You are programmed. The first cell is programmed. And all the other cells will renew the same program, the same ID, the same identity. Every cell is the same, has the same identity. They are my cell. Not the cell of my mother, my father, my grandmother, no, my cell. They are my own identity, even at the point of view of biology. I go to, okay, at the bottom of the page, that master program guides and channels all the activity within the organism to the accomplishment of a unified common goal. Unified. What is the unified common goal? It's to make a human being, to make you as a person. You know? Okay. Number 12, page 12. So the unified common goal, it is the aim of the program. It is the promotion of the health and overall development of the total organism. The promotion of your health. What is to be sick? Is to have a disorder. Sickness is a disorder in yourself. What is cancer? Cancer is a disorder, multiplication of cells. It's about cells, you know. Overdevelopment of the total organism. So all those activities are for the formation of your total personality, person and personality. Well, the magnitude is huge. Okay. The living being is one reality. The living being pulsating with activity is at the same, in a state of dynamic equilibrium. And what is health? It is to be in equilibrium, because all my body is motion, and the blood is moving, my body, everything is motion, otherwise I would die, no? Okay? But emotion with coordination. If there is motion but not coordinated, it will be disorder. Imagine you have soldier coming and suddenly one has not the right pace, and the other, finally, all the troops are not walking at the same speed. They are hurting one another. No, they must follow the programmation at the same speed, the same pace. Okay, so that is we call equilibrium. Equilibrium, balance. Okay, through the constant internal repair, renewal of cells. You know, continually we renew ourselves. I have a slideshow about that, but I don't remember if it is in English or in French. It is wonderful. I think it is in English. I will try to send that to you. And creation of new cells to replace the old. We know that continually we replace our cells, continually. We eat for that. We assimilate for that. Okay? And only think about your tail, your nails, yeah, and your hair. They grow considerably. Therefore, so the living organism remain an effective, closely knit unity. Closely knit unity. We are almost infinitely numerous, trillions of cells. Imagine trillions of at the same time. I am I. I am I. One being, one reality. So if I am one unity, there must be, and that unity is working for its conservation, for its survival. To grow, there must be finality. So you have unity and finality. So we have to find the principle of unity. If we discover there is unity, therefore there must be a principle of unity. So unity and finality. Now we affirm that, not a priori, we affirm that after the discoveries of science, so a posteriori. A posteriori, in every living being, we have unity and we have finality, because there are many things going to one, the good of the whole person, the whole being. Okay? Number 9. So, conclusion. The purpose of this question about how to explain the unity of the living thing. So the question is a philosophical one. We cannot answer that question within science, within the experimental science. We have to go outside of. And it is the work of metaphysics. In fact, when we study philosophy of man, if we want to understand the best you can philosophy of man, you must also refer to metaphysics. Next page, page 30. So, what is the principle of unity? The principle of finality. You remember Antiliki, Mr. Bernard, Antiliki. Unity. We call that for us the soul. The soul. The anima in Latin. Anima, and you have animation. Anima. Principle of life. Anima. So, the principle of unity. What explains the finality, the principle of life. In fact, soul, when we speak about soul, we speak about life. And when we speak about life, we speak about soul. Such a way that sometimes we can say life instead of soul, or soul instead of life. But we must be careful, it's not exactly the same. The soul is producing the life, and life is explaining the presence of the soul. So a fact, complexity and unity, harmony and balance. So I go to 1.3. The living thing have coordinating and organization. They are fixing a finality, which are aimed to something. So there is a goal, there is an aim, there is an end, there is a finality. So all that must have an explanation. And the explanation is given by Aristotle. We accept that explanation because it is fitting well with the science today. And one of the reasons of that, Aristotle was a biologist. He was not a mathematician. Biologists are close to, animals, close to the reality. Plato was a mathematician. Okay? So it is the theory. The theory is the matter and form. We study that. So the reality of the human, of any living being, man or plant or animal, it is the form in determining, precising the matter. And in the case of man, the form is the soul, and the matter is the body. And in everything, matter and form, two are co-principle. Co-principle of being. That means I have no material being without a form and no matter. Matter by itself is has no determination. Form must determine the matter, quantify matter. Soul is determining the body. Because my body changed. No? I have this my 11 body. Marketing, 11 here. Yeah. 11. Yes, every 7 years we change almost all our cells. We renew ourselves every 7 years about. So, what is permanent? It is my soul. What is the principle of unity? It is the soul. The principle of organization. So we apply here what we study in philosophy of nature and in metaphysics. In the same here, we can say also that form is matter. A form is matter to act and potency. In fact, we have here the two definitions of Aristotle about the soul. The first definition is we call isomorphical definition. The soul is the form of the body. The soul is the form of the body. The second definition, the soul is the act of the body. That's the metaphysical definition. That is cosmological or natural definition. Okay, so the page 14. It is the ultimate life principle. I go to number 3. Aristotle seems to be in accord with the recent finding of modern biology. What is interesting, when you read Aristotle, you read the discovery, there is no contradiction. Of course, Aristotle did not know the detail of science, but his intuition as the soul being the form of the body, or the soul being the act of the body, that intuition is not opposing at all to the discovery. So we speak about the formal, the soul is the formal cause. Here, the form in the body. We have two intrinsic causes. You remember that? Intrinsic causes. Matter and form. Material and formal. So the soul is the formal cause of the living. The formal cause of the living. And the body is the material cause of the living. So number 4. Necessity of the presence of a cause exerting a strict governmental control. So there is in the DNA, the first, we have a code, and that code is controlling everything. Every cell is obeying to that code. So what is, in fact, the principle of unity on that code, the supremacy of that code, it is the soul. It is not the atoms themselves, because my body is made with atoms. What it is making myself as myself, it is the principle of unity, the principle of finality, the principle of organization, and that principle is my soul. Is the soul of the plant, the soul of the tree, etc. So by virtue of the strict government control, the totality is able to exercise over each of its parts, command handed down to each of the trillion cells, control the manner in which they function, where they function, etc. So there must be a central principle of unity, principle, unity in the multiplicity, that principle of unity, that principle of organization, of finality is the human soul, or the soul of animal. We study after the difference between the human soul but for the moment, let us speak about any kind of soul, any kind of principle of life, because your cat has a soul also. And finally, page 15, I already spoke about that. Huh? We need a principle of unity. And page 16, here in paragraph 7, it is exactly what I spoke to you, the principle of unity in the finality. Unity in the finality. We are one, and we tend toward one and end. Okay? In fact, for anybody, it's the good health, but we go further than that. We see after that it's also our happiness, our eternal happiness. So number 8, the soul is the first organization principle. So the soul organizes and forms the whole. If I am one in my multiplicity, in my whole, if I am whole, complete, in unity, one and whole. You remember last week the two characteristics of any individual is to be one and to be whole, complete. So what is that? What is that principle? Is my soul. My soul, the principle of unity, the principle of organization, the principle of making myself one, complete also. And finally, the last page, don't forget the life is an analogous term. The life of a plant, the life of a cat, and the life of a man is life, but is different. Life of a plant, they cannot detach, they have no sentience, so they have no knowledge. The cat animal have knowledge, but they have not they have sensory knowledge, sensory appetite, and man has intellectual knowledge and intellectual appetite because the will, the free will. But it is the soul. A plant needs an entelechy. A cat needs an entelechy. A man needs an entelechy. That means a principle of finality, a soul. But I cannot say the soul of man is exactly the same thing as the soul of flower and the soul of my cat, because of the distinctive activity they have. Okay. So the case of human, it is. We saw that just before. Our man is spiritual through his intellect and through his freedom and the capacity of dominating even his instinct. So now we have an idea. We have 3 classes on that. Next class we continue to study what is life and what is human life.